the situation in Bangladesh has clearly got out of hand. And this is happening at a time when Sheikh Hasina is at war with the Americans. She doesn't want to give them access to St. Martin's Island, which they want to make a military base out of. And she's also simultaneously at war with the Chinese. She just came back from a trip that was cut short by a day. She's furious that the Bangladeshis has not got the credit lines promised by the Chinese. And she's saying, I will do business on the Tista project with India and not with China. So she's fighting with both these countries, both of whom want a piece of the action and a piece of the pie in Bangladesh for their own strategic interests. My question to you is, can we disregard the fact that these protests, if you call them that, this anarchy in Bangladesh, is the fallout of our independent foreign policy line?
First of all, I agree with you that Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina is a staunch and a strong nationalist. She has always worked for the best interests of Bangladesh, and she has not at all tried to ally herself with either of the countries you speak of. Rather, she has resisted that, and it was most evident in her recent visit to China. But I must tell you also that the way in which the students' protest has spun out of control is indeed very surprising, and one must ask oneself questions as to why. Let me explain this, because in 2018, when the protest took place and Sheikh Hasina was again Prime Minister at that time, it was she who responded to the protest by cutting out the reservations for the freedom fighters' children and all others. So she had removed entirely the reservations from the government service jobs. But then the case went into court, and the High Court of Bangladesh gave a verdict last month, in the month of June, where they wanted to restore these cuts, saying that the government's decision to cut out the reservations was wrong and against the Constitution. Now, it is against the High Court decision that the protests began. The students' protests were not against Sheikh Hasina, they were against the High Court decision. And they began with demonstrations here and there, and some of them went out of control. I think just one or two people died. It was all coming okay. And suddenly we saw that in the press conference taken by Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina on her return from China, there were questions about the protests. And she said, well, of course, if reservations are to be given, they have to be given only to the children of freedom fighters, not the children of Razakars. She was meaning that as an explanation for why reservations had been given. But this was spun completely in a different way. And at that point, I think the protest got hyped. We saw the Shibir, the students' wing of the Jamaat-e-Islami joining we saw the students' wing of the Awami League joining in, the Bangladesh Chhatra League, and it got completely out of control, and that was when the maximum number of deaths took place. And I think that this is why I feel that it's very surprising. The BNP is trying to resurrect itself. We know that their leader, Tariq Rahman, is living in London for the last 15 years, but he is trying to resurrect himself because they made a huge, I think, strategic error of their own by not taking part in the last elections. And the Jamaat-e-Islami, of course, has support from many other countries as well, and they're trying to gain the advantage by getting the students on their side. But it is Sheikh Hasina who is calming the situation down by saying that, look, the High Court decision is going to go to the Supreme Court on August the 7th, and I can assure you there will be a decision that everybody will accept. So she has also asked her ministers, the Education and Law Minister, to talk to the students, and the dialogue, I hope, has already started. There's no news about that. As of last night, the army, the BGP, Border Guard Bangladesh, and RAB had been called in, and the situation had calmed down. Today morning, the situation was calm, but throughout the day, it has become a little more volatile. There were protests and clashes in suburbs of Dhaka, in Mohammadpur and in Uttara, and there has been a very tragic incident in Narsingdi in the central portion of Bangladesh, where the mob attacked, the police attacked the jail, the local jail, freed several hundred prisoners, and then they burned the jail. But this kind of anarchy is being tried to be created.
When I say these things, people say Arnab is a conspiracy theorist. I'm actually not. I've studied this I see a pattern here. I see a clear pattern in the way things go. And I would like to invite the attention of the audience who think I'm mad to be saying this, that there is openly in several countries across Africa recently, where America has commercial interests, where France has commercial interests, similar attempts at overthrowing governments have happened. And it is a fact here that the same thing is happening in Bangladesh.